What is up, guys? Gear issue 33, and we are back. Now we're going to be looking at the 5 reasons you shouldn't mess with the U.S. Of course, this right is from Destiny. The full video we place in the description box itself. The little time stamps of when I actually interject when we try something brand new. By the way, YouTube, I've got to kind of throw this out here. YouTube, this right is not an advocation for war or anything like that there. So go ahead and just don't strike it as that there. We're just kind of reviewing another video, which, by the way, discusses U.S. overall weaponry, or the overall weaponry of the United States. Now, I kind of butchered that there. Guys, like I said, the actual timestamps itself, the portions where I'm going to be interrupting it are going to be in the top left-hand section of the video itself. You should see it there, so this way you guys kind of get an idea of when I'm going to come in with commentary. We're going to try that from now on. Of course, the last few videos have not been edited as well. Make sure you guys leave a comment section, kind of critique the video. If possible, make sure you guys hit the like button. Subscribe. Also, you do that there, hit the notification bell so that way you guys are notified. And let's go ahead and roll into this content.
Power in the world, and it's never looked back. In all aspects of the world, the United States is indeed a superpower, especially when it comes to its military might, which is unsurpassable in its strength, technological superiority, operational capabilities, and power projection across the globe. In this video, we'll take a look at the 5 top reasons why you wouldn't want to go against the US military establishment. The United States Air Force is the strongest in the world, not only in the number of operational aircraft, but also in technological superiority. The country currently operates a total of over 15,000 military aircraft, combining all the branches of the military service, including the US Navy, US Army, Coast Guard, and the US Marines.
Alright, guys, this right here is going to be the first of the actual, let's just say, expansion on the topic, which I told you to be 5 actual stops. The thing is this right here. The United States Air Force, which, by the way, of course, is the largest in the world and obviously the most powerful, we oftentimes use that as our main doctrine for nuclear deterrence. I spoke about that in the nuclear missile series. Don't worry, I'll be leaving a couple of videos in the description box and in the comment section. And one of the things that you have to understand about the United States is that we have this propensity to just know that we have an abundancy, or it's definitely much, much more technologically advanced. Now, me personally, I am not a proponent of giving away anything that's deemed obsolete. But the thing about U.S. weapons is that we have basically an industrial complex that can produce weapons pretty much at will, of course, except in certain areas. But aircraft is definitely one that we, quite frankly, have gone out of our way to absolutely extend and continue to make larger and larger and larger. So if you want to actually take on the United States, the first problem you're going to have to first problem you're going to have to deal with is the fact that our Air Force overall air capabilities are just absolutely insane and absolutely ridiculous, and no other country in the world can match it. China's trying to get close, but let's remember, China's military is mostly counterfeit. Russia's got a big air force, but their planes are nowhere near as good as ours, nor are our pilots.
Of 2017, the US Air Force alone has a fleet of over 5,300 aircraft, 406 intercontinental ballistic missiles, and 170 military satellites, greater than any other country in the world. The USA has the largest number of stealth aircraft designed to be silent killers and untrackable by the radar defense systems of most countries in the world. Some of these stealth aircraft include air superiority fighters, such as the F-22 Raptor and the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, heavy bombers, such as the B-2 Spirit. In fact, the United States pioneered this technology in the 1980s with the introduction of the F-117 Nighthawk stealth attack aircraft. Stealth aircraft are designed to avoid detection using a variety of technologies that reduce radar reflection from ground, sea, or air-based radar antennas, thereby reducing its radar cross-section, or RCS. This revolutionary technology allows a 5th-generation aircraft, such as the F-22 Raptor, with a max takeoff weight of 83,500 pounds, to have a radar cross-section of just 0.0001 meters squared, about the size of a bumblebee. What's more insane is that the massive B-2 bomber also has the same radar cross-section as the F-22 Raptor. Thus, it becomes extremely difficult to track stealth aircraft, even if the enemy spots them on their radar scopes.
Really quick, guys, that's something else too. Stealth. If you can't see it by radar, chances are it's already up on you at the time that you can actually react or even hear it. So definitely stealth. And a lot of countries, by the way, are trying to create stealth technology for their aircraft. The problem is that we're so much ahead of them in that actual area, and we've already kind of like mass produced stealth aircraft and stealth fighters, stealth bombers. That it's going to be a really long time. It's going to take a lot of manpower and a lot of money for countries like Russia and China to actually catch up. I just figured I'd throw that out here before we move on.
It's a whole other story to successfully track them and register a missile kill. The whole idea behind this technology is to break the chain in which a conventional surface-to-air missile defense system works. It's the same reason countries like China and Russia are also hard at developing their own stealth fighter, the Chengdu J-20 and the Sukhoi Su-57, respectively. These aircraft will allow the US Air Force to assert its air superiority over any battlefield of the future. And we all know that control of these skies is the biggest decider in any war. The next reason why any country going to war with the US military should think twice is because of the strength of the US Navy and its dominance over the world's ocean, especially the Navy's supercarriers. The US Navy currently operates 11 nuclear-powered Nimitz-class supercarriers, which is the largest aircraft carrier fleet in the world. The only Navy that can come close in terms of technological advancement is probably the Royal Navy of the United Kingdom, but they only have 2 operational carriers. The Nimitz class of carriers has a displacement of over 100,000 tons and can carry a complement of up to 70 aircraft. They're literally a floating small town in the ocean with its own airport. The Nimitz class carriers in themselves are extremely potent offensive weapons, but the way they operate in what is called the carrier strike groups makes these ships even more deadly. A carrier seldom deploys alone. There are always a fleet of surface and underwater assets surrounding them and forming a strike group. These include guided missile cruisers, a destroyer squadron, attack submarines, and other support vessels. Together, they project the power of the carrier and at the center of the group forward towards the enemy. While the carrier is carrying out its offensive role with the use of its air wing, the other ships are responsible to protect its flanks against any enemy attack. This combination of offensive and defensive strategy makes the US carrier strike group almost impenetrable. The United States...
Guys, really quick, I want to throw this out here. I personally believe that we should have a larger Navy. I get criticized for that by friends, especially fellow veterans. I think we need a much larger Navy to combat China's overall quantity approach, which, by the way, that's really what a lot of communistic countries do. Y'all got to do is go back and look at history of the Soviet Union. The fact that we have 11 super carriers and the fact that we have more carriers in reserve that we probably could pull out is something that I think we should probably consider in the future. And I think that having that large Navy is really the biggest deterrent, not so much the Air Force, but the actual Navy itself, because if I can carry weapons to an actual zone to prevent, then it makes the job a little bit easier. And if you get past that Navy, which quite frankly is going to be more for just carrying out strikes, you're talking about rescue operations, all kinds of stuff like that there. Which actually somebody in the comment section is going to say is really the Coast Guard, but still at the same time, though, look at what the ships can actually do. Also having that submarine force, and as you guys, if you've been watching the nuclear missile series that I've kind of been doing here recently, the response, you'll see that a lot of our nuclear capabilities are also on those submarines as well. With that right there being said, this is really probably I think the Navy should be number 1 and the Air Force should be number 2 because we can actually get to issues before they actually become a problem. However, though, a Navy is only as good as the person who is actually using it. Just figure I'd throw that out there. And, of course, the mouse.
Navy maintains 9 such carrier strike groups, 8 of which are based in the United States and 1 that's forward deployed to Japan. For over 50 years, this has been the principal element of US power protection, and the Nimitz class of supercarriers are at the center of it all. Despite this, the US is currently in the process of developing a new class of carriers called the Gerald R. Ford class, intended to replace the Nimitz class ships. This new supercarrier will be even more technologically advanced and is expected to continue US dominance of the oceans well into the late 21st century. The third reason why you shouldn't fight the US military is their massive stockpile of nuclear and conventional intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs. The ICBM...
All right, guys, I don't think I have to do a whole lot of explanation here, but here's the deal. ICBMs also, I got to double check it, but I want to say at one point in time we could actually strike from space. A lot of people like to talk about the supersonic missiles that China is creating, or hypersonic. fact of the matter is, the United States, we were already on this technology years ago. And quite frankly, we've had much more advanced weapon systems than they do. But the United States, of course, I mean, it's not even the fact that we have to have so many nuclear missiles. It's exactly like our nuclear missiles themselves are much, much more powerful than others. Like, they actually cause more damage and more overall destruction. Hydrogen bombs, of course, dirty nukes, things of that stuff there. It's not so much the fact of how much we have, it's exactly how effective they are. And also something else too, the mere fact that we, for the most part, have been in conflict or some type of combat over years also assures the actual nuclear missile readiness, because even when we are at peace, we have to pretend that we're somewhat at war. A country like, say, Russia or China, who hasn't really been in conflict, well, Russia is obviously in Ukraine, but countries like that, the fact that they've not been in actual combat, or actually, I mean, let's just put it this way here. We being in a constant state of readiness also improves and sharpens our skills, where they, on the other hand, we're not so sure. We may see them fall off in case a war actually starts. It's one of the reasons why I think it's futile for Russia or China to even attempt a war with the United States. With that being said, let's go ahead and move on.
Plays the role of the land leg in the US nuclear triad, along with the Trident submarine-launched ballistic missile SLBM and nuclear warheads carried on long-range strategic bombers. ICBMs are launched from ground-based missile silos, achieving high suborbital spaceflight, approximately 1,000 miles above the surface of the Earth. The body of the missile then separates from the warhead, which re-enters the atmosphere and free falls to the assigned target at hypersonic speeds. The US military currently operates 400 ICBMs from its base in Wyoming, Montana, and North Dakota. The LGM-30G Minuteman III is the only type of ICBM that is currently operational in the US. The Minuteman III family of ICBMs were first developed in the 1960s as a response to the Soviet nuclear threat. Throughout the Cold War and beyond, these missiles have undergone constant modernization. In the last decade alone, the US military has undertaken $7 billion worth of upgrades. The rocket propulsion engines, the propellants used, the guidance system, and even the flight control surfaces have all been refurbished. The upgraded missiles are completely different from its 1960s counterparts, except for the shell. These state-of-the-art improvements and modernization programs have kept the Minuteman III system operational for over 50 years, with improved reliability that supports the missile's remarkable 99% alert rate. The latest versions of the missiles have a range of over 8,000 miles, which is greater than the diameter of the Earth at 7,917.5 miles. They can carry multiple 330 kiloton nuclear warheads, which is 20 times greater than the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Not only that, each of these warheads can be assigned to different targets independently. The technology is called Multiple Independently Targetable Re-entry Vehicle, or MIRV, and was first developed for the Minuteman III family of missiles. So any country messing with the United States will have to deal with this awesome arsenal of firepower, which can be launched at a moment's notice. If it weren't the ICBMs or the stealth fighters raining fire down on you, it would be precision-guided munitions, or better known as smart bombs, or PGMs, instead. This is another big reason why not messing with the US military is a good idea. All branches of the US military use smart bombs in some forms or the other. These weapon systems are designed to be precise and hit a specific target with maximum efficiency. These bombs are so effective that during the first Gulf War, PGMs comprised only 9% of weapons fired, but accounted for 75% of all successful hits. Since then, for the US military at least, the days of normal artillery shells and unguided bombs are long gone. Nowadays, the military uses PGMs from air, ground, and sea.
Now, guys, really quick. We've been working on this type of technology for years, okay, post-World War II, and we've somewhat, to a certain degree, actually perfected it. Cruise missiles, for example, are extremely effective. Tomahawks are extremely effective. We've put a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of training into our actual technological systems to make sure that they actually work. There's reports of missiles being fired in Ukraine that don't work from Russia. And of course, this has to do with the fact that the main reason why I believe that we're so good at this is because of the fact that we, for the most part, have been in some form of combat just about every single decade on some level or not. Of course, we're talking about Korea in the 50s, Vietnam in the 60s. Of course, in the 70s, you had Nam. Of course, you had Grenada. You had Libya. You had, what else was it? Beirut, of course. We've been in some form of combat just about every single decade since World War II, and it's kind of sharpened our skills. Now, of course, I'm not in favor of all those wars, but you got to admit, we've been getting sharper and sharper and sharper, at least on the technological front. I'm not so sure about the infantry front, but like I said, this is actually a very, very raw reaction, so we'll see what happens at number 5.
Precision-guided munitions come in various forms and use different kinds of technologies to achieve precise hits. A large majority of PGMs use the Global Positioning System, or GPS, of satellites to guide their trajectory to target. However, sometimes this becomes a problem, as GPS coverage is not always reliably available everywhere across the globe, or bad weather conditions can hinder operations. Thus, the Office of Naval Research, the Naval Surface Warfare Center, and the Army Research Laboratory have all coordinated to develop the first ever artillery-fired smart munition that will not use GPS guidance. The project is known as Moving Target Artillery Round, or MTAR for short. The MTAR shell can be guided onto stationary as well as moving targets in both land and sea, using a combination of guidance technology. The best part is that these shells can be fired from the existing M777A2 155mm towed howitzer and the M109A7 Paladin integrated management self-propelled 155mm artillery systems already in use by the US military. The shells will also feature an extended range of 40 to 60 miles using rocket boosters to propel them. Once finished, it will afford the US military another potent weapon system that outclasses others around the world. Lastly, the fifth and final reason why you shouldn't fight the US military is drones. We're all familiar with what an unmanned aerial vehicle or drone is and what it's supposed to do. But in recent years, the usability of UAVs are steadily increasing to encompass all spheres of military operations, and the US military is the pioneering spirit behind it. At first, used only for surveillance missions, drones...
Guys, really quick, I'm going to be very brief on this one right here. We use drones a lot nowadays to actually save our air corps itself. Okay, these weapons are very effective, and I won't say we've even got sea drones now, but there's one more thing. I figured I'd throw this out here. When I joined the Marines in 2003, this is actually the original MOS that I let's just say asked for. Of course, they gave me tanks instead. You don't always get what you want, but I guess at that time it was what was needed. I just figured I would throw that out here before this video ends.
Quickly weaponized after the 9/11 attacks and have been extensively used by the US military in the war against terror as an offensive weapon platform. It's forecasted that over the next decades, the US is in line to purchase over 1,000 combat drones of various classifications. Some of them, like the Lockheed Martin RQ-170 Sentinel and the Boeing MQ-25 Stingray, are already in the final stages of development, and once finished, will provide the US military with state-of-the-art platforms capable of multi-role operations, ranging from attack missions to aerial refueling. Drone technology has reached such heights today that a single UAV can loiter miles above the surface of the Earth for hours, waiting for the target to show its head and sticking with impunity. This capability will allow all the services under the US military to reduce its dependency on manned platforms, thereby reducing the risks during future combat operations. These 5 weapon systems make the US military extremely dangerous for any adversary looking to get into a conflict with them. In a conventional warfare setting, it's almost impossible to beat the US military machine. That's why modern enemies of the United States are employing more and more asymmetric warfare strategies against the mighty US military. Despite that, the US military juggernaut is hands down the most powerful military complex in the world today, and probably will be for decades to come. That's all we have for you today, folks. Thanks for sticking.
Now, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this video with a couple of last points. Okay, reason number 6, best trained military in the world. Of course, we're a bit lagging here recently, especially with the wokeness stuff. We've done many videos on that. Reason number 7, the actual sheer distance of America from everywhere else. Reason number 8, the terrain. And my personal favorite reason number 9, we have so many gun owners, it's absolutely ridiculous, and we've got people who actually train with them at a very, very ridiculous rate. Guys, John Claymore here at Gear Issue 33. If you like this content, hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section, and I will see you guys later.